Hello everyone, welcome to another video tutorial on the Code Angle YouTube channel. And as you can see from my screen, today's video tutorial is going to be about charts, and we'll be making use of what is called the chart.js library to graph data coming from a REST API. Now, this is not a REST API we create ourselves, it's an open source free API on the internet. So I'll be showing you the documentation pretty soon. So all we did there was to get data from that REST API and then graph it onto the page. We have the employee salary and then the employee age. This shows the amount each of these, the values each of these statistics carry. So that's pretty much what we'll be doing. So going straight to the documentation, if you go to dummy.restapiexample.com, you get access to this page. And once you're on this page, you have about 5 routes. So we'll be making use of the first one, which is the / employee endpoint. It's a get request, and then this is the full path to the API. So when I click on it, it loads out all the data. Now I know you might not be able to read this properly, but I have this Chrome extension where it can pass this data properly for us, and we can see it in a clear JSON format. So we have two tabs, we have raw and we have parsed. So this Chrome extension is called JSON formatter. So that's pretty much what we'll be building. And also I'll go briefly through the chart.js documentation as we progress in the tutorial. So without wasting further time, let's get started. So the first thing we need to do, let me close this page. The first thing we need to do is to create our project. So I'm going to go create a new folder. So in that folder, we can create our HTML and our JavaScript files. Yes, this will be done through vanilla JavaScript. So I can call this chart. So let me navigate and open this folder in VS Code, Visual Studio Code. So we'll be needing, let me see, 3 files: HTML, CSS, and a JavaScript file. So the first one is index.html, second is styles.css, and then lastly we have app.js. So getting started first with the index.html, let me generate a boilerplate. For the HTML, let me just say chart.js tutorial. And then for the body, I think I'm going to make use of Bootstrap. So let me just go to getbootstrap.com and then copy the CDN so we'll have access to the classes. Click on get started. So this is going to be in form of cards. So let me put this CDN in the head tag. So what we can do is go directly to the, or before I do that, let me just create an h2 header and call it chart.js tutorial. Save and then open the page on live server, or with live server rather. So we have our file displaying on the browser. So now the next thing I want us to do is to link the script tag for the chart.js library. So if you go to chart.js.org, you get this landing page, and then this page gives us access to the documentation. When you click on get started, you have the introduction page where you have a sample chart, but I think I will navigate to getting started. So I'll have access to the script tag. So I will copy this script tag. This is version 2.8.0 as at when this video is being created. So when you try to create this tutorial, it might be a different version entirely. So now we have the chart.js CDN. Another thing is, let me quickly link the script tag for link the what's it called, the JavaScript and the CSS file. So for this, I'm gonna do src equals to .js. Same thing with the CSS link rel style sheets href. So style.css. So let's give it a background of purple. Let's see. So we now have a background of purple. So the next thing we're gonna do is on the chart.js documentation, we have a ready-made what's it called templates where we can copy on our file. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy the whole of this and I'm gonna paste it in my JavaScript. For this to work, we need a canvas. So a canvas element. So once I copy the canvas element, it has an ID of my chart, as you can see. So if I put this in my HTML and then paste it and save, the chart should have been, yes, it gets scrapped onto the page. That means we now have access to the chart.js library on our page, or in our code rather. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to style this a little bit better. So to do that, we're going to be making use of some JavaScript, some Bootstrap classes rather. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a div and give it a class of card. It's going to be in a card format. So card. Also, I want the text to be centered. So text center, then margin 5. So the everything has a margin. So I'm going to put everything the within the canvas tag. So let me see what other class can we add. Okay, for the h2, let's give it an header class. So I'm going to create another div and then class of card header. Okay, I'm gonna copy the closing tag of the div. I'm gonna paste it. So I save that. So on the page, it looks a bit more better, or much more better. So with this, I think we can now start working with the REST API. So this looks much more beautiful, much more better and readable on the page. So let's get started with the JavaScript part of the code. So in our app.js file, we'll be fetching the data from the dummy REST API. But let me just add a comment here. Fetch can space ft, is it t cth, no tch. I can't spell. Fetch data from dummy REST API. So fetch data from the dummy REST API. We'll be making use of the asynchronous function. So we'll say async function. So get dummy data. So open a bracket and then a curly brace. Now let's create a variable called const API URL. So let's go get the URL for the API, which is, yes, this. Put it in a quote. Then the next variable we'll be creating is a response from the API. So when I say response, so I'm gonna await, since it's asynchronous, fetch. So that will be the API URL, and then we're gonna convert the response we get. Let me see, chart. Yes, there's something else I want to note. We'll be making use of a bar chart. So let me call this bar chart data. So we're going to be awaiting these two. So the response is going to be in JSON format. It can be in so many formats, but it can be in text. I know it can be in text, but for the sake of this tutorial, it's going to be in JSON format. So the response we're getting, we're going to call it response.json. So let's console log this in the console. So chart data. Okay, great. Then let's call our function get dummy data. So what I want to notice, the chart.js library allows you to draw different kind of charts. So when the one drawn on the page is a line chart, but we want a bar chart, so we call the type bar, and it's going to be in form of a bar chart. So let me save that and then go back to the browser. So yes, it's in form of a bar chart now. So let's check the console out and see the results we have there. Okay, we have an object. Let me make this much more bold. So we have an object that contains a data of about 23 items. So, or 24 because it's counting from 0. So each of these data kind of have about 3 to 4 data in them: employee age, employee name, employee salary, the ID, and the profile image. But we're making use of just 3 things here, which is the employee age, the name, and the salary. The name would be under the bar chart here, and then the age and the salary will be inside our bar chart. So now that we have it in the console, our job here is much more easy. So the next thing we need to do is to get the individual data for, let me remove this, for the employee, the age, and then the, better say, let me, okay, yeah, let me remove that, the employee, the age, and then the, what's it called, the salary. Let me just log them separately on the console. So what I'm going to do next is create a new variable, call it salary. So I can say varchar data dot data, because that's what was returned when you check this. Yeah, this is returned as data. So the data, we need to look through it using the map function in JavaScript. So dot map, let me just say x, then x dot, what do we have there, employee age. Let me copy that, employee age, x dot, oh, we forgot about the arrow, we need an arrow here, x dot employee age. So we'll log that to the console soon. So the next one is employee, no, salary, not age. Sorry about that, employee salary. Let me copy this 2 more times. So the next one is the age. So this will be employee age, and then the last one will be the name. So employee name. So if I log the 3 of them to the console, I should have their individual data: salary, age, and name. So let me save that. Yeah, and as we can see on the console, we have the age, we have the salary, and then we have the name, Tiger Nixon, Garrett Winters. I don't know if any of you guys know who these people are, but for me, I don't. I've never met them before. So this is excellent. Now the next thing we want to do is to append these variables to our chart to make it dynamic. What we have here is just static data. When you check the labels, we have January, February, March to July, as you can see here. Then the data, we have 0, 10, 5. So we actually don't want that. We want data coming from the REST API. So the next thing we can do is to create a global variable. So to do that, the global variable we create would assign them to this local variable here, then show them on this chart. So without wasting much time, we need just three data. So let me just say employee label. Now it's going to be an array. So we assign an array to it. So instead of creating another variable like something else, let me just create the variable directly here, employee salary data, employee salary data. That is also going to be an array. And then lastly, the employee age data, employee age data, which is also an array. Every data in the chart.js is in form of an array. See, this is an array, this is an array, the data is an array, the label is an array. But we are trying to graph for two different charts. So what we can do is inside the data set, we can duplicate these objects. So how do we do that? At first, I want to change this label from my first data set to this one is going to be employee salary. Employee salary. So the second set of data is going to be employee age. So to do that, what I can do is, let me bring this down. I'm going to copy the whole of this and then paste it here. So this is going to be employee age. So the next thing I want to do is change the color. Let me just give this a color of blue. So this is going to be blue. I'm going to leave the border color as it is. And then the second one is going to be pink, the one for the employee age. So background color is going to be pink. Then for the options, let me see this and let's see how it appears on the browser. Okay. So for this tooltip, it's showing only one. I want them to show two. So to do that, we have the configuration options, and in the documentation of the chart.js library, if you go to tooltip and you go down to what's it called, to the mode. Yes, we want to set the mode. So I'm gonna open that up. So for it to show two, I'm gonna put the mode, select the mode of index. This is gonna make it is gonna show both two tips for the two tip for the both data. So let me paste that here and then save, and you see what I mean. Yeah, as you can see, we now have the two tip showing the employee salary and then the employee age. So I think that's perfect actually. So let me close the console. So next thing we want to do, I think that might be the final thing in fact, is to assign the global variables here to the local variables. So the employee label, let me see, the employee label, I just say employee label is equals to, the label is the name, so let me just assign that to name. Then the next one is the employee salary, the employee salary data, that will be the salary. And then finally the employee age data. That is going to be taking in the data for the age. Okay, now that it has taken in all this, the global variable has taken in all this, we need to put this chart in its own asynchronous function. This is because if we don't do this, the reason why we need to do this actually is for the get dummy data here to load before, like to load before our chart loads. It shouldn't load before our chart load. Our chart should load, then it should now get the data. Or else if the data loads before the chart will not be able to draw the data which we have gotten from the REST API. So to do that, we are going to make use of the asynchronous function. We're not making an asynchronous function using async await. So instead of declaring it here, instead of calling the function here, we'll be calling it inside the chart. So let me call this out. You see what I mean? So let's call this a sync function dummy chart. Didn't spell function well. Function dummy chart. So I'm gonna wrap this around the entire chart. So what we can do is just wait to get dummy data. So this is what I mean. So when this chart loads, then the data can now load coming from the get dummy data. Yeah, which is excellent. Instead of using var, let's make use of, let me say let me make this one var. Since it's a global variable, I think var is still reasonable to be used, but within this chart, let's make that one, let's make then let. So let me save this. I doubt if our chart is going to display on the browser. Yes, it's empty. It's empty because we haven't assigned the variables to the chart themselves. So instead of labels here, we can just have employee label. So this employee label will be coming from the API. Then this is for the salary, data from the salary, and then the age. The age is here. I believe this should show right now when we save. Okay, might be having an error. Well, let me refresh directly. It's not showing. It's not showing. It's not showing. What could be the problem? Let me see. What could be the issue here? Oh, I just realized we are not calling our dummy chat data. So we need to call this. I mean, how would our page our function load if it's not being called? So let me call that dummy chart and then save. So you see, data is now being displayed from the REST API, and this looks excellent. So this is properly graphed. So if I click on this particular label here, it kind of shows only for the employee age. When I click on it again, it shows for the employee salary. The reason why the data for the age is not showing alongside the salary is because the data for the age is kind of minute. Like you see a salary of about 433,060, and then the age is 22. There's no way it's going to show alongside this. It's too small. The data for the age is too minute. So I think that's it for this tutorial. We've been able to cover the basics and the bare bones of chart.js and how to display data that comes from a REST API. Using the chart.js library, we created global variables. We made use of Bootstrap, and then to make our charts look nice. So let me format this. The code for this is gonna be in the documentation. I know this is pretty much simple and beginner friendly, so and it's pretty much straightforward. So I hope you are able to learn one or two things from this particular video. So thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like and the subscribe button and also the notification button to encourage me to create more videos. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Stay blessed. Bye.